Hi there, travel lovers. It's your trusted cruise and Tauck tour expert, Shawn Power here. Today, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite cruise destinations in the world, which is Alaska. Because it's here in North America, it's definitely one of the most popular cruise destinations in the world. I mean, I think I guess Caribbean's probably number one, Europe's number two, Alaska's number three, something in that order. So Alaska is super, super popular. So I just wanted to go over a little bit about, what you may see and do in Alaska. If you've never been there, maybe you're kind of wondering why you want to go up there in the first place. A lot of people think, oh, what is there to see there? Because we're here in North America, we've probably seen it all. But I can promise you, you haven't seen what's in Alaska. Even me, I live in, even though probably 95+% of my clients are in the U.S., everyone thinks I live in the U.S. as well. But I actually live in Vancouver, Canada, in British Columbia, and the scenery here is fabulous. The mountains, the rivers, the streams, the this, the that, everything else. I mean, the bodies of water is just fabulous here. But when you go to Alaska, everything's just I like to say on steroids. The mountains are bigger, the glaciers are fabulous. I mean, the animals are plentiful. I mean, it's just fabulous up there. So now, speaking of me being in Vancouver, Canada, the reason why I'm talking about this topic right now is because our cruise season just started here. I don't know, within the last few weeks or month ago. And when I look out my window, I can literally see the cruise port. So I'm watching ships pretty much come and go every day, and that instantly makes me want to hop on another Alaska cruise. I think to date I've been on maybe like 11 Alaska cruises, probably one Alaska cruise tour, and so I really love that destination. I go back again and again. For me, it's like my Caribbean. I mean, it's easy to get to the port. I hop on, I go up, just like if someone lived in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, they can hop on the cruise and go up. But I don't just go up because it's close. It's because the people are wonderful up there. I mean, they're really super nice people, very different from the big cities like I live in, and maybe like you live in the U.S. The food is wonderful. The seafood's up there, the crab, all the different things like that. That, like I said, the animals are amazing, and the sights are second to none. So there's a lot of reasons I go to Alaska, not just for the proximity, but a lot of people, when they go to Alaska for the first time, they do get very confused of what they should do because they can see there's cruises from Seattle, there's cruises from Vancouver, there's cruises from Anchorage, and then there's what we call cruise tours. So, here's what I can tell you. When I started in the industry, selling cruises 20 plus years ago, or around 20 years ago, I actually started with a company called Alaska Cruise Experts. And that's all I did for years was sell Alaska. And I can tell you by far the number one rated way to see Alaska is by a cruise tour. So that's where basically you would say fly up to Alaska. Maybe you're going to fly into Fairbanks, which is pretty far up north. I mean, you're getting pretty much up near the Arctic Circle. You'll spend a couple of days there. You'll see some things in the area, which I'll probably go over, later in this video. Then you'll make your way down to Denali National Park to see Mount McKinley, the biggest mountain in North America. Then you'll probably, maybe even go to a different part of the park there to again go into Denali itself, see the animals, the bears, the moose, the caribou, the Dall sheep, and then you'll probably take a train ride to get on the ship. And then after say 5 or 6 nights, you're going to take a 7-night cruise. So that ends up being about a 2-week trip, and by far it's the best way to see Alaska because if you just do a cruise, you're seeing like 95%. Sorry, you're seeing about 5% of the state. So just a very small part of the state. It's only southeast Alaska, really northern British Columbia. So you're not really getting that authentic Alaska feel. But when you go up to Denali, McKinley, Fairbanks, then you're right up in the heart of Alaska where most of the state is. And you really get a feel for the place. But you also can't leave out the cruise because the cruise is where the glaciers are and where you do a lot of whale watching and different things like that. So that's why I say you got to do both. So if you're going to do Alaska right, do a cruise tour. Again, bunch of time on land, usually about a week, and then a week on the cruise. After 2 weeks, you've kind of seen all the highlights. It's a great way to see it. Now, again, if that just doesn't work, don't fly up to Anchorage to do a one-way cruise. For the most part, you're just kind of wasting your time and money. Again, don't get me wrong, maybe there's a certain cruise line you want to go with and that's all they offer. But if you've got a choice to do a Vancouver round trip or a Seattle round trip, instead of a one-way cruise, well, that's going to save you time. When it comes to flying, it's going to save you money. But again, I don't recommend that. Do the cruise tour if you can. Only do the round trip cruise if that's all that works for you, budget-wise or timing-wise or whatnot. So that's tip number one: do a cruise tour if you can. You'll absolutely love it. Another thing is get yourself a balcony room. People think, oh, it's going to be too cold in Alaska. Why do I need a balcony? That's totally wrong. I've been on like 88 cruises now, and most times I have a balcony. And there are some cruises where I don't use it a lot. Alaska is where I use it more than anywhere. because it's very scenic up there. For one, you're going to see glaciers. Some itineraries even include multiple glacier viewings. You're going to go through probably like the Tongass Narrows and Ketchikan. You'll go up and down the Lynn Canal and Skagway. You'll be going possibly through the Inside Passage between the coast of mainland British Columbia and Vancouver Island. So again, lots of scenery, so many things to see. I've seen whales from my balcony in Alaska. I've seen dolphins from my balcony in Alaska. When we get close enough to some of the shores as we're pulling in and pulling out, I've seen some different land-based animals. So you've got to get yourself a balcony, if in budget. And most of my clients do go on the luxury line, so the Regents and Silver Seas, don't worry, they all include balconies anyway. But if you have a choice, try to go with a balcony if you can, because what you don't want is you don't want to have to get to the glacier, which is like a huge highlight, and now you're up on the top deck with hundreds of people who are inside are in inside rooms and ocean view rooms, and you're kind of standing over each other, you're looking, you're trying to get the picture. It's just not the way to do it. When I go up there and all my clients were in the verandas, the captain goes up and he or she will kind of spin the ship around 360 degrees, usually once or twice, so that everyone gets views from their balcony. I've even stayed in suites where there was a hot tub on the deck, literally in the hot tub, looking at the glaciers while having a hot chocolate and a Bailey's or something like that. So again, spend as much money as you can when it comes to the room to get yourself a nice balcony. And hey, if you really got the money, like I said, that hot tub experience was second to none when I did that with on that one occasion. So like I said, do a cruise tour, get yourself a balcony if you can. Now, what are you going to see? What are the highlights when you go to Alaska? Because this is what people wonder about. They're like, is this for me? Well, here's what I can promise you. Whether you're 9 or 19 or 49 or 93 or whatever, there's really something for every age in Alaska. And that's why it is such a popular family destination by far. Most of what I book is couples and couples traveling together. I don't book a lot of kids because I book very high-end trips with Regent, Silver Sea, Oceania, Viking Explorer, and all those companies, Tauck, lots of Tauck. So, not a ton of kids, but by far the destination where I book the most families is Alaska, because it's a great family destination where every generation can have something to do. You can get off the ship and, maybe the older people don't necessarily want to go off and do kayaking, but they want to go see a lumberjack show or do some shopping, whereas maybe the younger ones want to go biking or kayaking. I mean, literally whatever you want to do in Alaska, there's so much up there. So just to kind of tell you about some of the things, for one, glacier viewing. Now, again, not every cruise includes a glacier, so be careful. If you book with me, look, I've been to Alaska, like I said, 12 times. I've booked probably about $20 million worth of Alaska cruises. I'm going to know what cruise to put you on. I'm not going to steer you wrong, but do make sure whatever travel agent you work with, that they know Alaska well, because some people put people on the wrong glaciers and you don't get that experience. But seeing glaciers is a huge highlight. We're talking seeing, ice walls breaking off, thunderous roars. Some of these are multiple stories high. It really is a great experience. So you want to get to a major glacier. And again, that's something that you want to check out from your balcony if you can. So glacier viewing is huge when you go to Alaska if you book the right itinerary. Also one time I was up there, I was with Seabourn, and they have what they call Ventures by Seabourn. And because they have a smaller ship with Zodiacs on board, we were able to, now this was a paid excursion, of course. I mean, you're going to pay a lot for excursions in Alaska, for stuff like this, but there's also excursions that cost 40, 50 bucks as well. But the point is, this is something where, yes, it costs hundreds per person, but we got off the ship, the big ship, onto a Zodiac, and it was the closest I'd ever got to a glacier. And I mean, I'd already seen glaciers many times and was fascinated, but it was unbelievable to be, I don't remember what it was, 100 feet or 100 yards or something like that. But I mean, it was so close. The blue colors were amazing. Seeing the ice breaking off, it was fabulous. It was silent. You could just hear nature. I mean, it was quite the experience. So if you can get yourself to an even more intimate glacier viewing where you're getting on a Zodiac or something like that, absolutely go for it. Another thing I did, I remember one time was in Ketchikan, and you can do this in multiple ports. We took a float plane, and it was probably a 15, 20-minute ride where we landed to an area where we were able to watch the bears feeding on salmon in the river. There's a lot of salmon that run in Alaska, and we were watching, I remember it was like a mama bear and her cubs kind of going down, and they were just taking salmon out of the river, with their mouths and eating it. I mean, it was spectacular. So, I mean, there's some, really unbelievable experiences like that you can see in Alaska that you really won't elsewhere. If you end up in Skagway, which I highly recommend, they have the White Pass Rail. Fabulous train ride. Basically 150 years ago, people used to get dropped off in Skagway and they'd hike up to the, to the Klondike area up in the North Canada to pan for gold, to search for gold. So they end up building this train at the end of the gold rush, which is now a tourist attraction. and you go over bridges and through tunnels, and it's just amazing just to kind of do that train ride and imagine what it must have been like, seeing people hiking up there back in the day. I mean, no wonder, thousands of people died attempting that because it was quite treacherous, and to get to do it from a train ride, it's just a fabulous experience. Like I said, if you do a land tour, you're going to get to go to Denali National Park. When I was there, we saw bears, moose, caribou, Dall sheep, even wolves. But again, there's multiple Denali tours. You got to do the right one. There's over like 100 cruise tours. So again, don't overwhelm yourself online trying to figure this out. It's almost impossible on your own. Deal with someone like me who's done it again and again, or your own travel agent, whoever it is. Just make sure you're working with an expert, because again, you want to do the right tour in the Denali, because there's shorter tours that you'll hardly see anything. There's longer tours that take you deeper to the park that you see everything like I did. So Denali is a fabulous thing to do to get into the park. Whale watching is fabulous in Alaska. Juneau is a real popular spot for that. Even Icy Strait, Point Sitka. So there's a bunch of places you can whale watch. It's pretty much always guaranteed. They literally say, hey, if you don't see it, I can't remember if they'll give you credit or money back, or they'll give you another tour. But the point is, I've never heard of anyone I've seen whales. I mean, they just know where they are, and you're going to get to see whales. At least in my experience, we always have. Fairbanks, again, let's say you do one of those cruise tours. I remember going to the Chena River and taking a riverboat ride. And then we stopped in a local native Athabascan village to see how they live off the land. And, it was showing us how they, again, it might sound, I don't know, grotesque or barbaric, but, they literally, when they kill animals, they're not doing it for sport or whatnot. They're doing it for the fur so they can stay warm. They're doing it for the meat so they can eat. It's fabulous. Learn about it. We even got to see the Iditarod dogs up there, which was a great experience, which is a famous race in Alaska every year. So that was a great experience. We even panned for gold. So, I mean, really authentic Alaska experiences that we got on the cruise tour that we couldn't on the cruise only. So again, I do highly recommend a cruise tour if you can do it. Just save up the money, go that extra week. Again, 2 weeks in Alaska with a land tour and a cruise is going to be a much better experience than just a cruise. Again, on the cruise itself, I remember going to Ketchikan, and you go to a place called Creek Street, which is this really cool area. It's kind of on stilts over the water. It's where, they used to have bars and brothels and all that kind of stuff during the gold rush. So there's a lot of history there, but also that's the start of where a lot of the salmon run upstream if you're there the right time of year. I've seen salmon going by the hundreds and the thousands, and it's fabulous trying to see them kind of, get up the river to spawn. You'll see a lot of ones that didn't make it. You'll see other ones jumping up through the water, which is unbelievable until you see it with your eyes. So again, just going to places like Creek Street and seeing that is fabulous. I remember going to Denali, and when I was there, I took a plane ride. I think it was like something, I don't know, maybe 7,000 feet up Denali Mountain, and we landed at base camp. That was an unbelievable experience, literally landing on a mountain with, it kind of had the skis on the bottom of the plane. Wonderful experience. Now, one tip, I totally underdressed for that because Alaska is way warmer than a lot of people realize. There's many times I've been up there in shorts and t-shirts, and also times I needed jackets and that. But when you land on a glacier 7,000 feet up, much colder than it is down at ground level. So if you ever do that, do bring the hat and gloves. I totally made a mistake there. But what an experience landing on Mount McKinley. There's lodges. Again, if you stay at the right lodges, you can see Mount McKinley from the deck of your resort. It's just fabulous. Again, the food up there is wonderful. I've done crab boils up there. I remember eating Alaskan king crab when I stayed at the lodges when I did the cruise tour. So again, whatever it is you like, maybe it's a different kind of meat. But there's just some unique foods up there you won't get to try at home, or maybe you do, but they're not as fresh because they come from Alaska and that. So, it's just a great thing to do up there is to try the food. Hiking is popular in Alaska. In Juneau, a couple of times I've hiked up Mount, I think it's called Mount Roberts. And it's not a huge hike, you're usually up within an hour, but the views below are just fabulous. So if you've got the energy, that you're able to do that. Fabulous hike. And there's lots of other hikes to do in Alaska. There's even a lumberjack show in Ketchikan. I avoided this for probably my first 8-9 cruises. I thought that's going to be corny, one of the silliest things. Well, I finally did it one time just to try it, so I could tell my clients about it. Absolutely loved it. I mean, I don't know, it's probably not even an hour long. It's really cheap, 50, 60 bucks compared to some of the tours that are hundreds. But it was fun. And these guys are athletic. I mean, they're climbing poles, they're chopping wood, they're walking on rolling logs. These guys are athletes. I mean, it's not what you think. It's not a corny. It is a corny show on purpose. But at the same time, the athleticism is something else, and just to see it with your own eyes, again, is fabulous. So fun for the whole family, no matter what the age is. Again, like I said, food is amazing. Zip lining, I've done things like that up there. Zip lining, I've done kayaking, I've done bike rides. So lots of, hikes. Like I said, lots of things you can do if you like to be active. Beyond that, before or after your Alaska cruise, if you're starting or ending in Alaska, also consider doing the Rocky Mountaineer train ride, which goes between Vancouver and Calgary. You might stop in Banff. It depends. There's some different options, and I'll put links underneath this video to some of this stuff. But I've done the Rocky Mountaineer, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now. What a fabulous train ride! People come from all over the world to do this ride. Now, again, it's not inexpensive. I mean, it's thousands per person, but I mean, you're on this domed, rail car going up to the Rocky Mountains. You're seeing the views everywhere. Sometimes you'll see animals. They serve great food, unlimited alcohol and all kinds of stuff the whole time. So again, if in budget, I promise you, it is something that you will never forget. What an experience! And again, you can add that before or after an Alaska cruise. Especially if you're starting in Vancouver. So anyway, that was just a recap of if you're just looking at to do an Alaska cruise and you're wondering are you going to enjoy it or not. I don't think I've ever had anyone say they didn't like Alaska. Again, any age, people are going to enjoy it. It's perfect for families because there's so many activities that appeal to, all the different ages, all the different activity levels, and it's easy. You don't have to fly to Europe. You don't have to fly to South America or Asia. You don't have to fly, 10, 12, 14, 24 hours to get there. You just got to fly to Vancouver or Seattle, or ideally, like you said, if you do that cruise, you're going to fly up to Fairbanks. But again, you're talking less than 10 hours, no overnight flights typically, and it's just simple. So any questions, as always, leave me a comment, go to my site, contact me, and I'll do my best to answer any additional questions you have. And beyond that, I hope you got some great value out of this today, and we'll see you on the next video. Have a great day.